Hi everybody, welcome to the garage. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. It's spring. Well, you wouldn't know it if you looked out that door. Oh lordy, I mean the garden was a wreck this morning. I don't know, I didn't notice there was any great wind, but several trees came down, one right across the driveway. It does not feel like spring, but it is there, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a thought, an odd thought. The longer your thumb, everyone's looking at his thumb. The longer your thumb, the bigger your brain.
Oh, thank God for that. I thought he was going to say something else.
That's very odd. Extraordinary.
Jeremy, there's one about a nose that's similar.
Yeah, there's something about feet as well. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it in. It's sort of scientifically based, apparently. House prices over the last 7 months have risen 4.1%. Risen in every state except Tasmania. And this silly government thinks that by reducing the deposit needed to buy a house to 3%, no, what was it, 5%, will help. It'll just fuel demand and lift prices. That's what it'll do. Just watch. And they're running the country, ladies and gentlemen. This march on Sunday, I don't know if you went along, I don't know if you know people who went along, but it had nothing to do with racism. It was simply about, in my opinion, survival. Yes, our survival. It was about population and a controlled level of immigration. A much bigger problem than climate change. This country is a wonderful melting pot of people from all over the world. Everyone originally came from somewhere else, even the Aboriginals. We are not racist, but we certainly know when we're in danger of being engulfed because of rampant, uncontrolled, unsustainable immigration. This is what's happening in Europe. People who are perhaps, well, I don't know how to say it, not culturally compatible. A lot of resentment, a lot of problems. This is big trouble. It's that simple. Do you want your government to go on supporting chaos and nonsense, forcing up the cost of housing, or do you want the government to control the number of people and the countries from which they come? Yes? This requires making hard, considered, valued judgments. It's our country, and we have an inalienable right, no, an obligation to get this right. Here's something. Les Ellicus, who joins us around the dining room table on a Friday morning, jeremycordeaux.com, 9 to 12, he sent me this on Saturday night. It's sort of interesting. It says, police brace themselves for the controversial anti-immigration rally in Adelaide CBD on Sunday. Is Peter Malinauskas, the Premier, sowing the seeds of division? I'm sorry, Peter, multiculturalism just doesn't seem to always work. You must have as a prerequisite that people assimilate, or you will have the division you're talking about in this article. In fact, you'll encourage division, won't you? The article goes on to say, police will be on high alert with more than 100,000 people expected. Well, it was more, not 100,000. It said 1,000, but it was more than 1,000 people converging on the CBD. Supporters invited to join the march against what they describe here as endless migration and weak leadership. I think that's probably something worth marching against. I wonder how many Aboriginals were there. I saw a few. They know better than anyone else what happens when you have uncontrolled immigration Going back to 1788, on the 26th of January, they were probably pretty relaxed and comfortable, complacent. 3 ships in the bay. So what? Not a problem. Seen them before. Let me assure you that Australia as we know it is in danger. We can lose this country, just as the Aboriginals did back on that day in 1788. You cannot be complacent. It doesn't have to be an invasion, it can be a few people at a time. A couple of boats here and there. People dropping by, staying. Unless you have strict rules and border control, you will lose your country. And that's what the march is about, Peter Malinauskas. That's really what I think it's about. I don't know what Peter's origins are, but as I say, I'm from France, he's from somewhere else, we're all from somewhere else. But he says here, somebody thought, no problem, I won't say Peter didn't think up his own line, that's not fair. But it says that Peter is proud that his home state doesn't tolerate multiculturalism. Instead, he goes on to say, we celebrate multiculturalism. Who is we? He goes on to say, I will always condemn those who weaponize race. I think we probably all would. Peter, but who mentioned race? Sure, the far right, the extremists, tried to hijack the protest, but we'll see through that. But I guess if the majority, being a democracy, if the majority wish to lose their country, well, I guess we've got to accept it or go live somewhere else. But I can't believe that while my generation is still alive, that will be allowed to happen. We have fought for this country before, and we will fight again. I think it's probably better to try and persuade the majority of people in this country that a harmonious, sensibly sized Australia is the way to go. At least, the very least, we must put a pause on immigration while the infrastructure catches up. Housing, water, sewage, transport, schools, hospitals. Would they be having this discussion in Malaysia, Fiji, Somalia, Africa, China, India, Japan? They don't do immigration in Japan. You don't get to immigrate to Japan, but nobody criticizes Japan. It's a very strange world we live in. As we've seen with the Iranian embassy of late, having foreigners in this country, even at the diplomatic level, is clearly a significant risk. You can imagine what's happening at lower levels, less senior people. I don't know. Do you imagine that all of the people who come from other parts of the world are not in some way perhaps dangerous? And how would you keep an eye on them all? And what does it cost to keep an eye on all these people, as ASIAL must do? God bless them. The government and the media won't make a big thing of this, but there are some 280 illegal immigrants here in Australia who will be deported to Nauru. And in exchange, we, the taxpayer, will pay a fortune to get rid of them, to have them housed. Now, I don't know if Nauru is corrupt, but they're pretty bloody good negotiators. Or did we just walk in there with an open checkbook? I suppose you could say, who would want these people anyway? This is the so-called NZYQ cohort. Now, I got no idea. 280 of them, but we're going to pay Nauru $410 million, plus we will be paying $70 million a year. Now, I don't know how much that works out at per person. I'm too distressed to try and work it out. But it seems to me like an extraordinary deal. Is it open-ended? Will we be paying the $70 million a year indefinitely? When people come to this country uninvited and illegally, but keep in mind, we continue to put, not the criminals I hope, but the illegal immigrants, we put them up in luxury hotels while we have thousands of our own people sleeping rough on the street in freezing weather, not to speak of the 87,000 aged people on the waiting list for a home care package. While this motley crew of murderers, rapists, child abusers and criminals have exhausted every legal opportunity to stay in Australia, and believe me, there are a few, and I'm sure that we paid for every expensive legal step along the way they took, which to me is totally wrong. The legal system has got a lot to answer for, let me put it that way. Why didn't this Labor government foresee this situation? They had plenty of time. The judges who decided that these dangerous criminals, whom no one wanted, not even their own countries, were being held illegally and had to be released immediately into the community, no thought about the community, these learned judges have to answer for a lot. Or at least to explain a lot. I don't know that judges explain to the general public, do they? Is not the greater good taken into consideration by judges, or is it only the letter of the law? Why were we spending millions in the courts for these people, criminals, to exhaust every legal avenue to stay in the country? Were we obliged to do that? And while they were doing it, I have no doubt they were all on welfare. These dangerous criminals walked our streets because the judges said we had to let them go. They offended, re-offended, again and again and again. Our own courts and lawyers, ladies and gentlemen, our own system is playing the taxpayer like a fiddle. And I don't know. They will not go back to their country of origin. No one else will take them. But to get rid of them, we are prepared to pay $500 million to stick them up there in Nauru. How did they get here in the first place? Where is the ministerial responsibility for immigration and the violation of our sovereignty by these people? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think we need a Trump. You know, you've got to have this little moment in your life when you say, what would Donald Trump do with this? What would he do? You can't see him paying $500 million to put these shady people in what I'm assuming is comfortable circumstances. We should not pay people to take these criminals. We penalise the Australian taxpayer and we reward the crooks. This is part of what that march on Sunday was all about. I reckon we've had enough. Talk to me on Friday about it. 0491 65 68 60. I don't know if we've got time. One more. Just a thought. I wonder who's behind this strange idea, whether it's sort of political correctness or what it is. Do you imagine that if you go to Africa or any other country where their ethnicity is strong, do you imagine that 30% of the TV ads would have to have white people in them? Can you imagine that happening? In Australia, somebody has decided that black, Asian and Middle Eastern people must be included in television commercials when appropriate, if appropriate, or perhaps I don't know. What's appropriate? Is this a requirement by government? Is it political correctness? Africa's a proud black nation. Asia, they are proud. Certainly Japan is very proud. No white faces there. Homogeneous, I think, is the word. Perfectly right. And I don't know criticism. Why would there be? It's their country. It's their business. What the hell are we doing? And who's behind all this racial nonsense? I don't get it. We're here with the best wishes of the Rising Sun Inn, ladies and gentlemen, 60 Bridge Street at Kensington. And I think the fires will be going still for another few weeks at least. I think they've got probably 4 or 5 fires, lots of atmosphere, beautiful wine list. Jackie and Grant will make you feel very welcome. If you're having a party, a romantic dinner for 2, or a function, perhaps a product launch, a wedding reception, a celebration of any kind, you can't do better than the wonderful Rising Sun Inn. And I must mention Jim Elder's fine art gallery auction that took place on Sunday. I sort of conflicted a bit with the march, but I was really interested in it. One painting, and of course people offer paintings to be sold, and clearly the vendor wants the highest price, and the person who comes along looking for the painting wants the lowest price. Try and square that circle. Anyway, there was an Albert Namatjira painting, and these are investment grade, and people aren't going to buy this to put on the wall. People are going to buy this because they know it's going to be worth more tomorrow than it is today. Anyway, Jim put $40,000 to $60,000 on it. Do you know what it went for? $147,000. Someone wanted that very badly. But it goes to show you, that would be one very happy vendor. I'll keep you across all the other things that he's doing, but if you've got paintings that you want to sell, Jim Elder, Elder Fine Art Gallery, Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. Happy birthday if you're having a birthday. Let me get my glasses. God, it's the 2nd of September. Happy birthday to all you Voigos. Ferdinand Porsche, German automobile engineer, Volkswagen, Beetle, and I think it says here something, he had something to do with the Mercedes-Benz SS. I don't know, I mean, I can't see Ferdinand Porsche, maybe he worked for Benz, I don't know. Founder of the Porsche car company, born in Bohemia, Austro-Hungarian Empire, died 51, but he was born this day in 1875. Bill Haley and his Comets, in 1970, rejected a $30,000 fee for 15 dates in Australia. That's 15, to play 15 dates in Australia. Oh well, I suppose, I don't know. He'd gone over his peak by 1970. I'd have thought that Bill Haley and the Comets might have grabbed it. Anyway, Chris the sheep breaks the world record for the biggest shorn fleece ever. 40 kilos. That's 88 pounds. Imagine walking around the paddock with that on. That was in Canberra, Australia, this day in 2015. Now there's a sheep worth his oats, or what do they feed sheep?
They feed themselves.
Yes. Well, the grass will be growing up there now after all this weather. It hasn't stopped raining for 2 weeks here in South Australia. I hope it's just been raining in the right places. World War II. Britain declares war on Germany after the invasion of Poland by Germany. France follows 6 hours later, quickly joined by Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and Canada. This day, September 2, 1939. And just another bit of World War II stuff. 2017, a 1.4 ton World War II bomb is defused in Frankfurt, Germany, with 60,000 people evacuated. Well, it doesn't say here what happened, but it was the largest post-war evacuation and defusing of a bomb in 2017. It's amazing somebody didn't stumble across it, if you'd pardon the expression, in between 45 and 2017. The Mitford sisters, Nazi sympathiser Unity Mitford. That's a nice name for a girl, isn't it? Unity. Unity Mitford attempts suicide after Britain declares war on Germany. Really? God. 1939. Richard the Lionheart is crowned in Westminster. 30 Jews are massacred after the coronation. Richard orders the perpetrators to be executed. This was the day. 1189 was the year. I'll give you one more. Bob Denver, American actor, Gilligan's Island, The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. He was a good actor. He dies of complications from the treatment of cancer at the age of 70 on this day in 2005. Maybe just one more. I like flags. 1777 was the year. The flag of the United States was flown in battle for the first time at Couch's Bridge, Delaware, a skirmish during the American Revolutionary War. Yep, old glory. Thank you very much for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. I hope you'll join us on Thursday morning at 9 o'clock for another Facebook posting here from the garage of the Court of Public Opinion, then on Friday with the live streaming show. Believe in yourself, and from all of us, goodbye for now.